All right, welcome to another Study Persian with Me live stream. Let me see what I'm actually streaming. There we go. Welcome everybody. I see somebody said I'm glad they put the flu flag, the true flag of Iran in the thumbnail. That's the Republic of California Tehrangeles edition. I am risking life and limb to be here on time at 2 o'clock. I am currently attempting the inversion method for a AeroPress, which needs another moment to steep, but I have an upside down AeroPress with close to boiling water on my on my desk directly in front of the camera, all the wires. This could be very bad. So I guess I got to learn how to say danger. I see from Vincent 2 ads. It should only, if you have ads, it should only be in signing in and not in the actual live stream, not during the stream, because I've selected manually place ads, and I am not placing any ads. So hopefully that's it. And my apologies for having to sit through those two. I see Coffee Talk flipping it back over is quite a hairy moment. Yeah, I'm hoping to get some coffee related sponsors because that is another great passion of mine, and I don't know. I if I can figure out a way to pitch a tie into James Hoffman, I'll do it or something. But I'm drinking a Worka Nenka from it's a Yirgacheffe, Ethiopia Yirgacheffe, roasted by Solid State Roasters in Manhattan. They're fantastic. I see you wouldn't expect someone so handsome to be so intelligent, and I'm not sure whether to be flattered or or slightly insulted. You look dumb. You're smarter than you look. I appreciate it though. So I have a lot of Persian that I studied in the last week. I see from Nathan, have you just started learning Persian? I have. This is number 4. This is the 4th week. I've studied off and on for a little while, but just dabbling. Never any really serious study. And that's something that I wanted to go to Tehrangeles in actually before COVID, and the short story time. My wife and I were visiting my grandmother, who lives not far from there, but not there, and we had planned to go when we last visited her in March of 2020, and our plans went slightly awry. We ended up on a red eye to Boston and then a rental car down to New York to like try and get home before everything shut down. And we were convinced at the time, I was convinced that like, public health measures were going to be taken that were going to be like really drastic and draconian and to really stop the spread of the disease. So I was convinced that if we rented like a car or something and tried to drive across country, that we'd be like trapped in Arkansas as they like closed the borders. And I realize now, in retrospect, that was stupid. But I thought like we're gonna put these measures in place, and like I don't want to get trapped in like Oklahoma trying to drive across country. Turns out, obviously, that's not what happened. You may have your feelings about what measures were put in place, but they were not as draconian as I was imagining. That's for sure. So I see in the chat, had a Yirgacheffe this morning. I'm about to have one. Let me move my mic away, and we'll have the moment of truth. I'm drinking it in the Rosetta Stone cup. Mug that I have. Okay. Ooh. Proof of life. Okay. So far, so good. I don't know if anybody else, this is not going to be a coffee talk stream, but I don't know if anybody else has had the experience where you use the AeroPress not inverted and it fails. Like the filter fails at some point. Like it develops a hole. I don't know if I'm creating too much of a vacuum, if I'm like adjusting the piston incorrectly. I'm not sure what the physics are of this, but at some point it gets a little gap in it. All the coffee drains out. All the sort of partially brewed coffee, a lot of the grounds drain out, and you have just the worst drink. It's undrinkable. You've ruined an AeroPress. I don't know why that keeps happening to me, but maybe it's just that I've had these AeroPresses for a long time. But whatever the reason, I've switched to the inverted method. So, okay. Cafe Mandoram. I don't know how to say cookie yet, but cookie Mandoram. This is, of course, a Safid Vameshki. And I am ready to get down to a little bit of studying and a little bit of review of what I went over this week, because this week got intense. This week got really, really intense in the book that I'm using. I'm looking for a place to put my now used AeroPress that isn't, the challenge coins and pipes or whatever. And you should all be grateful that you can't see my desk setup right now. So, yeah, so in the chat, I was asked, say cookie is kuluche, is that correct? Kuluche? Okay, so I saw a question asking whether I just started learning Persian. This is week 4 of serious study. Like I said, I tried in the past. I tried with, I don't know if I still have it in this room. I tried with Thaxton's Grammar of Persian, which is very aggressively a linguistic grammar. I also did not understand what was going on, and so I ended up actually having a publication on like the vowel system of Persian, because I could not get a clear answer. And a lot of the stuff that I do in linguistics comes from like, I want to learn this language, and then this is harder than I thought, and then why is this person saying this and that person saying that, and the next thing you know, you have a large corpus of speech, of telephone conversations from the Linguistics Data Consortium, and you're analyzing vowel patterns with large-scale demographic factors and what affects them. So that's what happened to me last time. The last time I attempted to study Persian resulted in a paper in the Penn Working Papers in Linguistics that's been cited a few times, but not me actually speaking Persian. And the time before that, it was a syntax paper on definite direct objects, but not me actually speaking Persian. So I'm trying to get down to actually speaking Persian. This is week 4. I've been working through the I'll share it here. Working through the Routledge colloquial. The Routledge not colloquial, whatever they call that. I think it's Farsi Shirin-est, is not as Shirin as they might want you to believe. So Shirin is sweet and pleasant. That textbook has no transliteration. It has no vowels written. It has doesn't even have dialogues. It's just like, boom, here's a bunch of sentences with it's a lot. They expect that you're working with a teacher. So I said, how can we get our hands on the publication? I'm glad, which my publication, not the book that I'm using, that is free. It's available. It's Penn Working Papers in Linguistics. I think it's volume 20 something point something. And yeah, I might as well see if I can find that. It was fun. It's just a working paper. It's like 10 pages, mostly graphs. I will see if I can share that. Corpus Study of Contemporary Persian Vowels. This is from a few years ago. It's on the UPenn Scholarly Commons repository. I'll share it in the chat. It's kind of an annoying website. See if I can find the better. I got to use Google Scholar. Whenever I try to Google something and it's not Google Scholar, it's annoying. Okay, so I have my argument for Azafic constructions and construct state in Zulu. That's also a another result of me having attempted Persian and attempted Zulu. I just noticed a thing there. So let me share this in the chat if you want to read it. It's basically, and I'll actually share it on the screen too. It's a paper where I tried to get my hand, figure out what's going on with Persian vowels, and specifically whether there's contrastive length, which there historically is supposed to have been, or contrastive quality. Oh, I'm sorry. This is just the abstracts. Let me find the actual paper for you and share that. Very annoying. I'm sure I have it on a computer somewhere, but let's see, all 5 versions. I don't understand who's making money or how off of these 5 versions. So, all right, I'll share this in the chat. And this is like, honestly, I wanted to just understand, is there contrastive length, and which there's claimed to be, and if not, that's fine. But I want to understand what the vowels are, because you get these different vowel systems. So the questions that I posed are the historical length distinctions preserved, and are they relevant to the phonology of Persian, to the mental grammar that native speakers have now? And also, what's the low back vowel? Is it actually aw or is it aw? I have a hard time actually differentiating between them in my speech, so I kind of wanted to know if that was important. So I have a lot of different elements here, but what I did was create a forced aligner and then use that. I think I used the Montreal forced aligner. It might have been HTK. There's a few out there, and then use that on the LDC corpus of telephone speech in Persian, and came to the conclusion that there's not really a length distinction. This graph that I'm looking at right now shows that they tend to all have basically the same length, and that the low back vowels that I'm probably fine with saying aw, which I have in coffee. There's some other conclusions that are interesting. So obviously Isfahan has a slightly different accent. The tracks of the vowels are a little bit different. But for my purposes, I was happy to just have a little bit clearer idea of what the vowels are, and that I don't need to distinguish short and long. If we think about examples in English, there is a distinction between short and long, but it's also seems to be more of quality, which is whether it's like e or I, and then those are offset by things like whether it's followed by a voiced consonant or a voiceless consonant. There's all sorts of things that go into the measurable length of a vowel as people produce it. I see. What did you use to generate those graphs? I used R. I work in RStudio for the most part. I'm trying to get down with Python, but R has been what I'm most comfortable with. I see in the chat, short A sound like a and apple, and long A is maybe like aw and coffee. As you said, yeah, and historically there was definitely a length distinction between those two. It's just a question of what speakers do when they're speaking. So give me 1 second. I'm gonna have my cookie and coffee, and we're gonna get down to let's go to 6 and 7, or 7 and 8. So I talked about this. I did 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4, 5 and 6 last week. I talked about, and then 7 and 8. This book got complicated. Give me 1 second. Oh my God, this is great. Of course, following Jerry Seinfeld's recommendation to get a little bit of black and a little bit of white in each bite for racial harmony. But this is delightful, and the coffee's great. All right, I gotta power up so I can actually learn something. Gotta get that dopamine hit in my brain. I don't know if any of you, I mentioned in the last one, I do not, as far as we know, clinically have ADHD, but I sort of live close to that side of town. And if any of you have watched that sort of classic video, there's a neuroscientist who does work on ADHD. He says like really inflammatory and frankly somewhat mean things about ADHD, but then kind of explains what he means. One of the things he talks about is it being diabetes of the brain. He's like, if you're going to sit down to do a task like memorization, you got to also have some sugar. But diabetes of the brain is one that just stood out to me because it's so inflammatory as a statement. It sounds like really bad. It sounds worse than what he actually means. Okay. Yes, I see in the chat. Did I notice that sometimes the third person singular conjugation of a verb ends with D, as in dorad, or E like in dare, which is right. The A is more colloquial and contemporary. The D sound is more literary, formal, old-fashioned, educated, correct in that sense. But it may sound a little stuffy if you're using that, depending on the context. We'll get into this actually. So I touched on a little bit of this last week, and I'll be playing some of the audio too. But this is where it got really, really interesting. So in 6, 7, and 8, it's like just a lot of grammar, which is great because it's actually not that much, but it's a lot that you can do with the language. So I feel like I'm still wrapping my mind around this stuff. The Anki cards that we made last week, those have been great. I've got that stuff locked in. I could probably tell you what we did last week. It was things like Yekem Chasteam. It was things like, I'm testing myself right now. Pedare tun, mashallah, kheli khosh tiban. Like, these things are relatively locked in because I've just been looking at them all week. This stuff, not so much. And I talked a little bit about politeness because, he talks about, this is arriving in Iran and going through customs. I will not be going through customs, but some of these things are still useful. As always, I'm going to be relying on the transliteration because my goal is to get myself to speaking as quickly as possible. I'm going to move where I am on the screen so you can actually see the transliteration a little better. And let's see. Can I move this here? No. Can I move this here? Yes. All right. Here we go. So, like I said, as usual, because I want to get to speaking as quickly as possible, I'm working in transliteration. That is not to say you should do that if your goal is reading and writing. I'm already familiar with the reading and writing, so it's just an additional element of memorization that I don't feel like I particularly need at this moment. So, this particular lesson... I see. Just arriving. Which book is it? This is the colloquial Routledge colloquial Persian. I'm using the 3rd edition because that's what I have. But there is a 4th edition. I have a link to the 3rd edition, which I'm using. Should be in the description of this and of past live streams. And I particularly like it because it does have transliteration and translation throughout. Some start with transliteration and translation, and then kind of try to wean you off of that, and I think that just makes it harder later on when it's already getting harder for no particular reason. So this, obviously, I'm not really going to need like passport and really what's the purpose of your visit and all that stuff, but I can find ways that some of the other parts of this language are useful. He talks about Esfahani accent, and they give a little bit here as well. Example of Esfahani. So he says, I'll just play it. Let's do this. What's the audio? It is CD1, track 50. I will be using Audacity as usual because then I can cut it up if I want to later on. First time tuning into any of these streams. Any particular reason for Persian? 2 reasons. One, I just kind of like it. It sounds nice. It's just an interesting language that speaks to me, although not literally because I don't understand it yet. And the other is that I have an opportunity to go someplace where it's spoken, and I'd like to give myself a challenge. If nothing else, then it's a fun thing I can do for the channel and make the trip a little bit more interesting and fun. So what do we have here? We have
Unit 6.
a description.
ورود به تهران.
Arriving in Tehran. Unit 6, Dialogue 1. How long will you stay in Iran? An Australian tourist has just arrived at Tehran airport. The passport officer begins the conversation. See if you can pick up these bits of information.
Okay.
How long and where will...
This is why I like Audacity, because I can skip
گذرنامه لطفاً.
to the beginning. Gozarname lutfan.
گذرنامه لطفاً.
So we've already learned please.
گذرنامه لطفاً.
بفرمایید.
متشکرم. چند وقت تو ایران میمونید؟
So chand vakt to Iran mimunid. That's how long will you be staying in Iran? Chand vakt is going to be really useful, right? That's something that's going to be, even if I'm not going through customs, that's going to be super useful to me.
حدود 3 ماه.
Hodude sema. So hodude is what, approximately? Is that what we have? in the book here. حدود 3 ماه. About 3 months. And we've learned our numbers already. I think if they haven't introduced months, they're introducing it here. It's cognate with moon and month in English. And I see بفرمایین for anyone who's interested is command me. I love how dramatic Persian is. I was looking last week at some of the other ta'aruf, and it was like, I hope your hand doesn't hurt, as a way of saying thank you. It's
حدود 3 ماه.
هدفتون از این سفر چیه؟
Okay, so hadafatun. So what is the what is your purpose of this visit? Safar, like safari, and he's a linguist. So this is clearly for me, and he's working on that sweet Esfahani accent.
هدفتون از این سفر چیه؟
والا من زبانشناس هستم. دارم روی لهجه شیرین اصفهانی کار میکنم.
It's crazy to me that they teach accent before they teach language, but I know lahjeh Isfahani now. So that's fine. And that's actually useful to me because I'm a linguist who works on dialects, so that's great.
عالی است. آدرس مشخصی دارید تو ایران؟
نه میرم هتل.
Okay, so known residence, I probably am not going to spend a lot of time memorizing that word up front. I'll go back, like when I'm done with all of this, I'll go back if I want to fill in, backfill more language than is going to be useful to me right now. Also, can we talk about the fact that she's supposed to be super excited about the Esfahani accent? She goes, Ali, yes. The S also clearly indicates that sort of relationship with other European languages.
در کدوم هتل اقامت میکنید؟
Okay, this is useful. Dar Kudum Hotel. So in which hotel? And what was that? Iqamat mikonid. So I'm going to need that. Okay.
در کدوم هتل اقامت میکنید؟
Iqama. It sounds like she's got a little like spiritization or affrication here. Like Iqamas. Let's hear that again. Is that like...
در کدوم هتل اقامت میکنید؟
Am I crazy? Or are you all hearing that? Instead of Iqamat, Iqamas.
در کدوم هتل اقامت میکنید؟
هتل امیر در ته.
I saw somebody, saying, "Oh no, Pratt." I'm gonna use Pratt right here. This is where like I'm going down a rabbit hole. I probably shouldn't spend time on this, but I want to know. I want to know if I need to listen for like S's here. So, egamat. I'm just gonna do that on the desktop, I guess. Now I'll do Persian Anki audio. I'm gonna click on Persian Anki audio. And let's open with Prat. So for those fans of Prat, you got your wish. That's is that IAVV? You got your wish. Let's view. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this, this is a software used by linguists doing phonetic analysis. And the top is a waveform, which is the sort of pressure waves as recorded in the audio. This is a digital sample, of course. And the bottom is the result of a series of windowed fast Fourier transformations. It's a way that we can analyze the sounds. I see yay in the chat. And see how learning how to read spectrograms comes in handy. It really is useful. This is the one thing that I loved about Rosetta Stone. It was insane that they made it so that you could actually like compare your own voice against a spectrogram of the native speaker. They'd be like, they tried to just build it. It was crazy. Nobody ever used it. It was hard to read. In languages like Persian that were written, right to left, they would actually put the spectrogram right to left. The whole thing was crazy, but I loved it. So let's see if we can hear this.
در کدوم هتل اقامت میکنید؟
I swear this is going to be that S, because this should be Miklonid, but let's find out.
اقامت
There's no T there. Okay.
اقامت
Wild. Okay, so for those of you who I'll move myself out of the view so you can actually see it a little bit better. For those of you who are just learning how to read a spectrogram here, let's go over this. A T or a D or any sort of stop sound, like a PTK, BDG, that's going to have one of these vertical lines that you see. If you can see my mouse here, I think you can. So this is like mi, ko. This should be the ka and mi konid. This is an M. You can tell in part because it doesn't have a lot of high frequency stuff. It's dampened. It's just air flowing out the nose. Vowels are going to be these ones where you see these like usually three bands of like darker color, and where that band is indicates what the pronunciation, like what the sound is that you're going to hear, what the vowel is that you're going to hear. As your tongue moves around in your mouth, those lines, like their relationships change. So this is a way of mathematically quantifying it. The graphs that I showed earlier that are like the position of vowels, that's extracting these formants from their from the spectrogram like this, and then plotting it in 2 dimensions. So I see spectrogram, something you learned in undergrad, never forgot. I love them. And this is why, because I thought I heard eqamos and
قامت 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 قامت
and I did. There's no T there. There's no line. There's no vertical line that would indicate a T. All of this gray area here that's a little bit darker is indicative of a fricative, usually like a sibilant, like an S, which is what I'm hearing. So this is bananas to me. So Prot enthusiasts, you got your Prot. We are going to go back to just listening to this. I'm going to delete eqamos because I don't really need that. No, I'm going to keep that, and I'm going to make an Anki card for that word.
در کدوم هتل اقامت می‌کنید؟
هتل امیر در تهران و هتل عباس در اصفهان.
بفرمایید. به ایران خوش اومدید.
خیلی ممنون. خدا
Welcome to
حافظ.
Iran.
خدا
Khosh
نگهدار.
Which, by the way, I should have said Khosh Umadin to everybody here.
Here are the answers.
Here are the answers. Okay. Don't need that. All right. So I'm going to keep that moving. But what I've learned is that an Esfahani accent, I need to be listening for S instead of A or ast. And I need to be listening for, sounds like maybe word final T's become S's. So it's sort of, I don't know, makes me think of like Ashkenazi Hebrew or something where like a ta in other varieties is a sa. So that's what I got from this. Much obliged, I think, is still going to be Heili Mamnun. And just going to keep this moving. So the things, the takeaways for me here are like chandvakt, hodude for like approximately. I don't know that I'll need hadaf right now, though. Maybe somebody asked me that. I'll be able to recognize it. Zabon shenas is extremely useful to me because man, I guess I could say zabun shenas, right? Man zabun shenase. And I am studying different dialects. It's lahje, right? Lahje ho. They have a different goodbye here, so negador, khoda negador, which is great, love it. And then they say future simple tense is the same as the present, which is great. I'm going here, same thing. So chandvakt, there's example sentence, to Iran, mimunid. Mimunid, so moon is the stem, id is the ending, mi is the prefix that indicates that it's, so moon is the present stem, and then mi is the I guess, progressive. It's not progressive. It's because they have doram there, but it's indicating it's an ongoing action. So chandvakt to Iran, so it's like imperfective kind of thing. To Iran mimunid. And their whole point is that that's going to be both. Is it zabon shenas even in colloquial? Okay, linguists. All right. Thank you for that in the chat. So we have ziyad, which is a lot or long, right? Ziyad ne mimunam. Ziyad ne mimunam. I won't stay long. I'm not staying long. This feels very comfortable for me as an English speaker because it's very, very similar. I'm going to close my little bookmarks here and keep moving. But this stuff is fun. I want to move quickly to, because I went through some of this already. I want to move quickly to the chapters 7 and 8 because those were like just so much content. I see Hafez is from Arabic, Negadar is from Persian, so Khoda Negadar. Is that Negadar? Negador? Negador, yeah. Is from Persian. So that's like super Persian versus, you know, you have a lot of Arabic influence from Arabic loanwords. They had their own William the Conqueror, but Arab instead of French. I see that ne prefix for negation shows up in Czech too. Yeah, that's very common cross-linguistically in all of the Indo-European, well, in many of the Indo-European languages. Okay, so we have just practice here on using the simple present as the future. So akhare hafte ayande che kar mikonid? What will you be doing? Ayande is coming. One of the things I like about this book is that they actually introduce just little pieces of new vocabulary. It seems to be intentional in the exercises. So ayande, I'm working on this, is introduced here, and then you see it a couple of times. Hichi, tuchune, mimundam o television tamasho mikonam. And they have how you travel, who you travel with, where will you stay. So bachi, baki, which is interesting. With what, right? How will you travel with what? And then, I'm sorry, I've been texted that my daughter's watching in the other room and was waving to me. So let me wave back. And I'm seeing here bachi, baki, so with what, with whom. It's sort of an instrumental kind of thing. And it's nice to see that it works for both. Dar Paris, kuja, where will you stay? So that's that could be, that's not mimunim, right? That's or mimunam, mimunid, I guess. That would be ikamat mikoni, right? Where will you I'm scrolling back up. Where will you be staying? He's staying in a hotel, and it was ikamat kardan. So yeah. That's nice of them to put that little trick question there. This book also has the answers in the back, which is great because I can't tell you how much I hate a textbook that says work out the exercises and then, hope that you got it right. Or worse, buy a separate book. All right, so they have umadan, which is present continuous. You'll be delighted to know that colloquial Persian uses the same structure. So nahar micharam, and then they have dashtan and the present stem they put in parentheses dar. So man daram nahar micharam. If you were to start with Rosetta Stone, which I am not advertising right now, although I am drinking out of my mug from back in the day, that's where you would start. You would start with pesar dukhtar, and then it would be immediately the present progressive. I'm in the middle of doing this, they're in the middle of doing that. So, in pesar daram nahar micharam would be like a very early on Rosetta Stone kind of sentence. With stock photographs, and before that, photographs from Virginia. Okay, so this should not come as a surprise to anybody who speaks other European languages. There's an auxiliary verb, and then the main verb and everything comes at the end. This is almost Germanic. So they're saying, notice you don't just put all the verbs all together. Let's see, Doram bidor misham. So I'm waking up. I'm beginning to wake up. I see. What is the fake aleph? There's a whole discussion of the what is the fallen down aleph. Zevel, it's coming, man. I see you on the Hebrew. It's coming. I have some thoughts that I'm compiling, and maybe I'll do a live stream on that. I think I might have put it in the other room, but I do have biblical Hebrew. It will be coming, and modern Hebrew later, because biblical Hebrew is completely different and very interesting. But right now, it might be middle of the week live stream. Right now, I'm doing my Sunday, my Yekshambe Farsi Michunam. So, man, Doram Farsi Michunam. Okay, so Doram Bidar Misham Al-An. I could have said that. Al-An. Somebody tell me in the chat how to say because it's Sunday, right? Al-An Ki? Is that seems not right. I love the argument happening in the chat about the fallen down aleph, the fake aleph, the broken aleph. I love it. And if it looks ugly to you, then maybe the Thaxton textbook is right for you because that is just beautiful. Here's a quick tangent story. I was when I did kind of poke around with Persian 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago. I was looking at it at Rosetta Stone, and I had somebody stop and yell at me that I should not be studying that demonic, squiggly snake language. It was not even the Persian calligraphy. It was just like typeset like this, and they said it was a snake language. And they meant the writing system, the script, which that's always sort of stuck with me. They thought I was studying Arabic, and this was in like 2000, God, this was like 2009. Yeah, it was just a whole thing. It was a whole thing. That always stuck with me. Okay, chon. Chon or chun, because I hear both, and that was what kicked off that first study. So chon ke yek shanbe ast, man doram farsi mikhonam. Chon. Oh, I see. Is it chon like aleph? So that would explain why I sometimes hear chon and sometimes hear chun. I thought it was chon. Boroye inke. That one's easy for me to remember. So boroye inke yekshanbe ast, or yekshanbe. Doram farsi mikhonam. Because, again, I guess I could say that again, right? Boroye inke man har ruze yekshanbe farsi mikhonam. I'm trying to get it. Trying to get it. I see naskh is the style of writing. Okay. All right, so we have some fun stuff here, but I'm skipping along and skipping along. This part I actually did know and remembered, and it's not super hard. It's just an auxiliary verb. They have some jumbled sentences. I hate this. I hate it so much. I think I did this earlier in the week. I still hated it because it's cognitively taxing and it's not terribly helpful. But language teachers love to do this. We're like, here's a bunch of words, make a sentence out of it. It's like, no. Anyway, top one, mandoram sup michoram. I hate it. I hate it so much. And they have all these like good vocabulary words in here. All right, so exercises. Can I say these things in Persian? Let's take a look at one or two of these before I continue to some of the other stuff I wanted to review. So how long will you stay here? Chand vakt. Do I need to say here? I guess I could say chand vakt inja. Did I say inja first? Somebody let me know, because I'm thinking chand vakt inja mimunid, but I could just say chand vakt mimunid, right? Can I say inja at the end? Probably not. I see lots of discussion too of whoever learns Hebrew with the vowels. Vowels, who needs them? You know, they're an innovation along with punctuation, and I don't know. I'm not convinced. I'll stay here for a month, so I want to say approximately, because he said approximately hodude, but whatever. Yekmo mimunam, right? Injo. I see Hebrew is a bad language, but I like it. Hebrew. So here's the thing. I was telling my wife this. I've been studying Hebrew for a while. Obviously, I studied a bunch of languages, and the Semitic languages are like being in a different dimension. It's like they just do different things. And so, you know, I was studying Hebrew for a while. I really actually enjoy it. Like I love it. But then when I come look at Persian, it's like, oh, that's a language that does language things that make sense to me. And it's totally because it's closely related to, well, somewhat related to English. But it just is like you don't have a templatic morphology with 3 roots and then you fit your vowels in and then you, it's just like prefixes and suffixes and like the words are all basically the same. They don't look like it, but they are. A bunch of them are borrowed from French. Like it's not terrible. So all of that said, let's get into like all of the grammar because I have this. I don't know how much we're gonna need immediately, like rish tarosh, which is a electric shaver, right? That's like maybe not the biggest bang for your buck. Vasayel, I think, is borrowed from French. Vasayel shakhsi, that's going to be useful. Personal, shakhsi is going to be useful. And then I talked last week about qabili nadoram and chohesh mikonam and all that stuff. So what I want to say is just if I get to Let's see, not comments. Is it bookmarks? Yeah, boom. In Iran. Dar Iran. Dar Irun. They have some grammar in here that is like absolute just fire. It is great. So, getting a taxi, not a thing I'm going to be doing, but some of this is useful. So, how much is this? How much that? That's easy. You're negotiating. Suitcase is very heavy. So, in chamedun kheli sangine. That's going to be useful, right? Mitunu bezari tu sanduk akab fan. So, can you put it in the boot, please? That's what they're going to be teaching here. Mitunu bezorid, or mitunin bezorin. And that is, there's all sorts of cool stuff happening here. So tunestan is to be able to, bezorin is for you to put it. And what they teach in this, is it from Arabic? Vasile and Vasael as tools? My mnemonic will be French then, if the etymology is Arabic. You see some of these like piare misham, piare shodan, to get up, to get out. So we're going to talk about these. The simple subjunctive. This is maybe a more traditional way of describing what we might describe in more contemporary linguistics in a number of different ways. So it is used in subordinate clauses. It is used as the subjunctive. It is used for it's like used for making requests politely. It's also used for like what's sometimes referred to as like cohortative. So like, let's do this. If you use it in the first person, it's used for what is it called? The jussive, if it's the third person. So it's like, may they do that. So like, qu'il mange de la brioche in French, let them eat cake. So this is like, this does a lot of stuff in Persian, and this is what I'm working on, really like digesting this week. So they say the me prefix suggests that the act or fact expressed by the verb is definite. What they mean by definite here is they don't mean definite like they mean definite like certain. What we might think of as indicative mood. So they say, Emshab mirim cinema. We're going to the cinema tonight. Verb uses raftan. The present stem is ra, informally. And same with that, definiteness, meaning the indicative nature of it, is somehow affected by a preceding verb, which I think is a very, very good way of explaining this in layman's terms. The second verb takes a be prefix, as in, Emshab mitunim berim cinema. We can go to the cinema tonight. Notice that this is used differently than it would be in like French or something. So, I can say je peux aller. It's not the infinitive here. It is, and it's not like je puisse, whatever. It's mitunim is, we can. Berim is like that we go. And if you're familiar with like Yiddish English, you might see like, you want, I should do this. That is the same kind of idea here. This is like, we can, that we go. I want that you should. See, it's also used for imperatives, exactly, because the imperative is sort of like the jussive, the imperative, the sort of cohortative. There's different names for that one. I don't come across it all that often, so forgive me if they're not coming to mind. Those are all the same thing, right? It's like a desire that it should be the case that first person, second person, third person does these things. So they give us tunestan, which is tun, mitunam, gozashtan, which is zor in colloquial. I think it's gozar in more formal. And they have mitunid, so you can, mizorid, you put, mitunid bezorid, you can put. I believe be gets the primary stress as well. And I see questions about what level I am in Hebrew. I have no idea. I think it depends on the domain that we're talking about. But I'll get there. So mitunid bezorid tu sanduk akab. So can you put it in the boot. Akab, sorry. So notice, with some compound verbs, the be prefix is dropped. This makes me think of German for some reason. The conjugations where like you don't have a g if it's like already got a prefix. So like, you know, I'm thinking of Yiddish now, but like gegessen, but you wouldn't say like verschwitzt. You just say like verschwitzt. I'm sweaty. So mitunam panjara ro boz konam. Can I open the window? So Cardan is the textbook, literally textbook example where you don't have be in this. And notice it's the first person. Mitunam panjara boz konam. So can I open the window? You can also just make it a suggestion that way, right? So I can say panjara ro boz konam, like, should I open the window? We have two verbs for I want to go. Chostan, which is cha, micham, michai, michain, and raftan, which is ra. And I think these the square brackets is more formal. I see in the chat it must be easier to learn languages as a linguist. That's how I got into linguistics. And I didn't get to study languages to learn them for almost 10 years. Now it's easier, but man, I saw somebody on Instagram talking about her life. Her dad told her that she's living her life like a slingshot, and you can't be upset at those people passing you because you're pulling all the way back before you slingshot forward. And I'm like, yeah, that's what happened. That's what I did. I'll keep telling myself that. So we have michaham and informally micham. When I first studied Persian, I hadn't studied any linguistics. This was mystifying to me, but now I see H's disappear just all the time. And then aw and ah are side by side. That's going to get shortened. So you get micham, michai, michaid, michaim, michain, michayan. I think I said michain. I mean michad. Notice it's not micha-e here. So you still retain the D in some places. So man micham beram, I want to go. This is super interesting because this is functioning like we might use a infinitive in English. And also it's like if you think about the structure of this linguistically, this is what Chomsky referred to as exceptional case marking. In English, we say like, no, I'm sorry. It's a similar thing where it's like, I want him to do this, where the him is like weird. It should be like, I want he does this. You see that kind of thing here where, you know, man micham beram, this is, God, what do they call it? Control raising? I don't know. I don't even remember. Syntax was not my forte. But man micham beram. So it's, I want that I go, right? So you get this kind of subjunctive thing going on here, and then the first person ending. Ta michai beri, you want to go. U michad bere, he or she wants to go. And they say you'll notice that different personal endings have been used for the two verbs. Here's an explanation. Let's do it. When the present stem of verb 1 is colloquialized, it loses the letter H. That's hey cheshm or something, right? Leaving a present stem which ends in a vowel. In such instances, colloquial Persian uses the literary ending ad with the initial vowel dropped. So compared to umadan as well. So that makes sense. You keep the duh if it's just a vowel there. So u michad bere, he or she wants to go. You keep talking and they want to go. I see from Florian, I think it's all pretty basic. Yeah. Ma michaim berim, shama michaim berin, unha michan beran. So this is kind of a cool structure. They have a comparison of the literary counterparts. I don't really care about that. And then following examples where the subject of the second verb is a different person. Do you want me to go? Right? This is what I was talking about with exceptional case marking. Michaid beram, do you want? So michaid, you want, and then beram. So it's this sort of subjunctive marker, the stem for to go, and then first person ending. This is super cool to me. This is two words, but it's like a lot going on syntactically or morphosyntactically. And it's cool stuff. Michaid panjarero bebandam. So do you want panjarero bebandam? Do you want me to close the window? I'm remembering close from like bind, like closing a book. And they said there's a Budan and Doshtan have their own special stems, which are bosh. It's like, do you want me to be, and doshte bosh, which is just fun to say, right? Do you want me to have something, right? So micham noruz. Noruz is New Year's Day, but also it's not just literally New Year's Day. There's a whole festival, and you gourmet sabzi, and there's fire things that people do, and there's all sorts of stuff. So Micham Noruz dar Iran basham. I want to be in Iran on New Year's Day, but I want that I be in Iran. So Micham Noruz dar Iran basham. And Michad, he or she wants, Doto machine dashte bashe, to have two cars. This is really useful sentence. So this is stuff that I'm going to add to my Anki deck very, very soon to get these really repeating in my mind. So you can see there's a lot of grammar here. Like this particular chapter was like, once you're done with this, I feel like you can say a lot. They get into conditionals later on in the textbook, which look really interesting as well. But for the most part, like this is a lot. You think about the vocabulary that we've already developed in the last 4 weeks, right? It's tons of stuff. It's a lot of stuff with cardan, right? Telephone cardan and like tamasho cardan and all that stuff. But then you also have like open, close, turn on, turn off. Turn on, turn off. I may have skimmed ahead, but those are like very easy as well. You have to stay, you have to go, you have to come, you have to bring, you have to put, like all of this stuff. And now you can say it in the past, in the future. You can say it in the subjunctive. You can say it in subordinate clauses. You can do exceptional case marking. Like all of the grammar is like for tense, aspect, and mood is covered here. If you're doing 2 chapters a week, which is an aggressive pace, it's covered in the first month. That's wild. So we're getting to boyad, and shoyad, maybe, perhaps, might. So we're getting into now what are called modals, but it's like whether it's a deontic modal or whether it's like whether it's something that should be the case, whether it's something that whether you're talking about like probability versus like whether you think it should be or ought to be. So we have boyad, must or should. You have shoyad, maybe, perhaps, might. You have mumkin, which is from Arabic. Mumkine, it's possible. Behtar, better. Behtare. So boyad beram, I must go, or I should go. Na boyad beram, I shouldn't go, right? I mustn't go. Seems, I'm not sure about scope here, so if anybody wants to tell me about this, is there a difference between like I mustn't go versus like I don't have to go, but I could go, as opposed to like I must not go? So shayad beram, I might go. Shayad naram, I might not go. Momkane beram, momkane naram. I could probably say those one. And behtare beram, I like that. It's better for me to go. I see in the chat opinion on Ladino. Ladino is amazing and is the main motivator for me to study Spanish at this point. Let's see. How come writing started with consonants first? Seeing perfect abjects existed at one point. Yeah, that's sort of an open question, but it does seem that we're more like we have more sort of phonetic and phonological awareness of consonants at a younger age. And people, even the way they talk about it historically is like the consonant carries the vowel. Yeah, alphabetic writing is an incredible invention. And even just, abjads are an incredible invention, but alphabetic writing where you actually represent the vowels too is just amazing. Okay. We got write the correct verbs in the blanks. Do you want to go? Michaid, do you want to go? Do you want you to go, right? Michaid, beri, right? Michaid, or formally, so Michaid berin. Oh, it's right here. They gave me the answer. I'm trying to fill in the blanks, and they're like, here's the example. But at least I got it right. So can we go to a restaurant tonight? Emshab mitunim berim restaurant. Or Emshab mitunim da restaurant berim, I think, should be okay. I must sit down. So nishastan, and the stem is shin. So bayad beshinim. Beshinam. That's we must sit down. Bayad beshinam. Behtare panjarero. And then they give me band, so bebandam. I'd better close the window. So this is just a lot of stuff. I'm going through memorizing this this week, but very, very excited. And then you have, these things like translate Emshab Sham Nemicharam to I'd better not eat dinner tonight. So Emshab, Boyad Sham. Oh, what does it say? Naboyad Sham. Oh, Bechoram. I see the in the chat the distinction between must and have to doesn't exist. Of course, but I mean the difference between I must not do this versus it is not the case that I must do this. I see. What would I say is the most bizarre Indo-Iranian language? I don't know that I like to frame things in terms of bizarre, and I don't have a lot of knowledge of the Indo-Iranian languages. I really don't. Persian is something that's like me dipping my toe into that sort of domain. I guess Indo-Iranian includes. It does include Sanskrit, doesn't it? Yeah. So I guess the Ruki rule would be the weirdest phenomenon that I can think of because it's just sort of it doesn't seem to fit as clear a pattern as you'd want it to. For those of you unfamiliar with it, I'm barely familiar with it, but it's a phonological rule that affects like 4 sounds, and it's like it's like not the clearest grouping of sounds why it should affect those 4. So okay, telephone dare has a telephone. So bayad telephone bash dashte. That seems right. This one, you can tell I'm sort of pushing my limits here as I skim through this. As always, what I will be doing is adding, like studying these, doing the exercises, adding to my Anki deck and so on so that I actually am memorizing this. So you're seeing me kind of like having my brain kind of gears grinding as I attempt to wrap my brain around it live on stream. And then later I'm going to do the tedious work of memorizing it, which is less fun to watch because you would just be watching me like doing Anki on my phone. And yes, I paid the $25 for it on my phone because it works really well for me. If it doesn't work for you, save your money. But it works great for me. So, it has already been mentioned that verbs whose present stem ends in a vowel need more attention. This is phonology. This is catnip for me. So, umadan, which is awe, and khastan, kha, to want, so mikhaham. They're now brought together in the box below. Please pay attention to the way the be prefix is slightly modified. So, man mikham biyam. Whoa, okay, I want to come. Man mikham biyam. That's going to be thing to memorize. Man mikham biyam. To mikhai biyai. U mikhad biyad. Okay, ma mikhayim biyayim. Shema michayid biyayid. These are great. Unha michand beyond. By the way, I looked up umadan and avordan, which is to bring. Avordan is directly cognate with Advent, which is cool. Also, or maybe that's umadan. Umadan is cognate with Advent. Avordan is add. The aw is cognate with add, and the vor is cognate with bear in English, to bear something towards something else. So that's kind of cool. That's how I remember that. I see in the chat, somewhere I read that be becomes bo with verbs containing v or o. Does this book mention that later? It does. They talk about like bochoram and so on. They do a little bit later on. I think it's the next chapter or so. So they kind of introduce stuff and keep bringing it back and filling in a little bit more. Man mikham ba to beram. No, what is it? Biam? Biam. So get the B here. Got it. That's what they're trying to teach me. So you can see there's a lot more sort of morphosyntax in this chapter than there was in previous chapters, but then it's like back to the fun in the next chapters. And I see also, reserve kardam, so telephone card, like the loan words with kardam are great. This is checking into a hotel, and then there's some complaining as well. So this is great. They also have some ta'aruf here. So I believe the beginning here was Salam khanum, salam aga, khaste nabashid is just hope you're not tired, which is like a great way to start talking about, like to start a conversation. And then it's a ritualized thing. This is ta'aruf. So chastein bashid and salamat bashid before mayid. So that is, may you not be tired. And they have in parentheses small talk, which is great. And then may you be in health. What can I do for you? Or literally like go ahead, right? So chastein bashid, salamat bashid before mayid. I know now that like if I walk into a place, let's say I want to get, really good Persian ice cream in Tehran at least, that maybe when I walk in I say salam khanum and then chastein bashid instead of just like man mikham bastani mikharam bekharam, right? I want to eat ice cream. Or I guess Becharam to buy. Charidam. This is not locked into my brain yet. Biaran for them to bring. So avardan that I was just saying is to bring, is to add, bear it somewhere. And they have what? Bala, so upstairs. That's good to know. So we already saw the prepositions. We saw, ruye, tuye, zire, paluye, ruberuye. And I remembered baloya is like above, even though it sounds like below. It's good to see here that balo can also mean like upstairs. That's nice. It's nice to see it again. And I see daste shama dard nakone. So they have it translated as thank you, but it's literally may your hand not hurt. And sare shama dard nakone, you're welcome. So these are really good ritualized small talk. Chaste nabashid. So this is one of the most common mini dialogues. This is great stuff. Then they talk about structured infinitive, which I've never seen in another textbook, and I think it's a really great approach. They say a structured infinitive is a verb pattern that gives all of the structural elements needed to construct a sentence, with each element shown at its appropriate place. So I have seen this, but not explained in this way. So, in French, you might say like, donner quelque chose à quelqu'un. Where I have like donner and then in parentheses like QQC, QQUN or whatever, however they, shorten it. But I've never seen it where they're like, hey, you should memorize this as a structured infinitive where you have all the pieces that you need to put this into a sentence. This is effectively talking about like valence, talking about how many arguments a verb takes. And I think that's a really cool approach to it. So this is nice. Maybe my singing the praises of this textbook is why Routledge has not yet shut down my weekly live stream. I have no idea. Okay, so they have some other examples here of sentences that are a little bit different. As X razi budan is to be happy with X. I love it because you're just razzed about something. That's my mnemonic for this. So man as, I don't know, safar, travel, right? Man as safar razi hastam, right? I'm pleased to travel. There's also as X asaboni budan, which is to be angry with, and I remember that because you're uncomfortable and angry if you're sitting on asaboni. So these are naughty mnemonics as usual. They have a few others. So yek soal as someone porsidan, to ask someone a question. I am curious about porsidan. I'm gonna see. Well, can I highlight that? Nope, I cannot. I'm going to see if I can. Find some information about this on Wiktionary, which insists in their IPA that they are Wiktionary. So let's see. Persian, I'm using QWERTY because again, I like to cheat. Let's see. How do they spell this? Por, si doesn't know. So por, si. What do we have? Porsidan. That just seems like it should be related to something. To ask or to punish. I don't know if you all can see this. It's small font. So, Opposite of razi could be narazi. I like that. Okay, I'll remember that. More common in speech. So from Middle Persian, by the way, check out Middle Persian script. It's awesome. As is Old Persian. This is also why I'm like, who cares if I use it in transliteration? Like, it's just it's a Arabic script, sort of ill-adapted to Persian. So from Proto-Iranian Persati, from Proto-Indo-Iranian blah 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 blah. Cognate with Russian prosit. I knew it was related to something that was going to be familiar to me. So prosit, and English frignan. That's one we don't say a lot anymore. So frinan, to ask or to pray, from Proto-Germanic frahnana. I'm guessing that's cognate with like fragen, and also Latin precor. Okay, so this stuff, your mileage may vary, but I find that this stuff actually helped me remember stuff. So from Proto-Indo-European prek, to ask or to woo. So porsidan, cognate with frage and prosit via some sort of normal pathways. And they have some example sentences here. Agar suali darid lodfan beporsid. Lodfan beporsin. As somebody mentioned in the chat. Was it Vincent who mentioned this in the chat? Yeah. And then there's some other things. Porsesh. What's porsesh? To ask it. So question. Synonym with so'al. Okay, great. Good to know synonyms. Porsemon. Inquiry. Great. Porson. Asking. So these are all useful terms. Good stuff. So, let's see. That was chapter 7. They also have this idiom for thank you. Daste shamo dard nakane. Daste tun dard nakane. Love that. And then I'm just going to skip to 8. Gofto guya khiyabani. So, talking in the street. And that's where you get like asking and telling the time, asking directions. So this is kind of an interesting textbook in that like I feel like I have to finish the whole thing before I'm going to know basic color terms, asking time and telling time. But I also like can conjugate verbs now, which is really cool. I will be conjugating verbs all week and hopefully learning some basic vocabulary next week. This also, you can already see they're doing the possessive endings. And not just possessive endings, but like the sort of pronoun suffixes in this chapter. So there's always a little bit of grammar that they add that's really nice, and there's always a little bit of vocabulary. But this is like, I don't know, I find the object endings a lot easier, so maybe it's just I find the verbs harder and the noun stuff easier. But I find that last chapter, chapter 7, is like, having skimmed the book, looks like it's the hardest in the book for me. And this is where I saw, by the way, Roshan, to turn it on. Roshan is actually distantly cognate with Luna, like moon, because it's a bright thing in the sky. And the other one was, to turn something off, was Khamush, which I remember because it has mush, and mice are musha, and they're quiet. So you see Baroya Ahmad, Baroya U, and Barosh. That stuff I find a little bit easier, thankfully. And that's most of the stuff in chapter 8. So I'm doing, like I said, 2 chapters a week. It sounds from the other room like it is about my turn to take nap time. So I'm going to make that happen. But I want to say, and I'll start speaking more Persian in the next one too, because I think it's all starting to come together. You can hear me kind of struggling to put it all together now. But I want to say, thank you all. Kheli mamnuna motshakharam. Thank you all for this. This has been, I don't know about all of you watching it. Clearly, some of you are getting something out of this, but this has been wonderful for me because there's so many of you who are so knowledgeable about Persian, or have interesting questions that point me in a good direction. Plus, just the high stakes of studying live seems to lock a little bit more into my memory. So I'm really enjoying this. I see Toyak Shambe. So until Sunday. and really looking forward to it. This is one of the highlights of my week now. We'll see how well I do in February. I gotta book my travel coming up. It's gonna be end of February, beginning of March. That I might actually be able to use this, and at a minimum, hopefully buy some ice cream or some gourmet sabzi, fesenjun, tadig, get all the good stuff while I'm out there. So thank you all, and look forward to seeing you all next week. I have a new video out on Quebec French if you haven't watched it. Also, if you haven't liked and subscribed, I should say that more often in this, but like and subscribe, please. And I have a Patreon, Language Jones. And I have a new video coming out this week on how to approach learning languages in 2024. And I will have one the following week, hopefully, about everything that we get wrong about Stephen Krashen and his comprehensible input method. Because a lot of people talk a lot about it, and a lot of them get a lot about it wrong. So thank you all. You all have been inspiring me to get more. So again, mutshakharam, kheli mamnun, merci, khodafez. What's the one I learned? Khoda negadar. Yes, there it is in the chat. Khoda negadar. Okay. Khodafez. I'm trying to sign out. Khodafez.